I think you may have done a better job of introducing our next speaker than I will, but he's Dr. Timothy Killeen, who's the Assistant Director for the Director for Geosciences, and as Peter said, has been a prime mover in establishing the NSF-wide aspects of the SEES investment. And to get the workshop off on as broad an outlook as possible and its interdisciplinary essentials, I think he is an excellent choice for our first speaker. He was previously director of the National Center for Atmospheric Research, or NCAR for those who prefer the letters, and also president of the American Geophysical Union. He's on the faculty of the University of Michigan, where he rose to become associate vice president for research. His own research is in satellite measurements and modeling of the upper atmosphere. Tim. Oh, I need to give your slides. Wonder how I do that. I'm not one of these people, unfortunately, who I run the other operating system.
Okay, that's it. Looks like that. Great, thanks a lot. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for inviting me to come. And Peter did a wonderful job of setting the stage. I agree with everything he did. And hello, Jeanette. Hi. So Jeanette's been an architect of this as well in many ways, and we miss her at NSF. So what I've got is a presentation I gave to my advisory committee. So it's all sort of in the public domain, but if you want to stop or interject or catch me and interrupt, that's fine too, because I hope to have a little dialogue with you. And I think, have some sense of what SEES and IT brings to the table. NCAR is a supercomputer center, and we had all the issues of networking and data mass stores and all those kinds of things. But let me get into SEES, the Science, Engineering, and Education for Sustainability portfolio. And we are thinking big, and we are thinking beyond the constraints perhaps of a normal multi-year initiative that comes and goes, because this is going to be an issue that's going to be with us for a long time, and we need really to harness all of our capabilities, technological, engineering, educational, to take it on. And if you listen to things that are said even in the State of the Union, and certainly out of the Office of Science and Technology policy, there is a clear emphasis on problem solving and addressing the new economy of the 21st century, which is going to be all about clean energy. It's going to be about carbon management. It's going to be about resource allocation, environmental multiple stresses, and harnessing, new ways of doing things. So NSF has to be part of that. And just to frame that a little bit, we do live, as Peter said, in a time of remarkable change. This is the picture of energy consumption today, from the night sky. But you just fast forward to 2030, and with the development that's underway already, tremendous pressures on our energy distribution and allocation system. And there are things that cannot happen, such as greenhouse gases increasing at rates that are untenable and unsustainable. So the system will break at some point. Other areas where concerns occur are in food security, are in water distribution areas, are in air pollution, air quality. If you look at just mortality today, indoor air pollution is up above AIDS in terms of harming people, and that's to do with the way people live their lives. So we're living in a century of rapid change that needs it's multifaceted change, and it is challenging human well-being in a number of ways. And I'm not going to dwell on all of this. So we take the National Academy of Sciences definition for sustainability science, which speaks to the interaction between the natural and human systems, and where sustainability is defined as meeting the needs of present and future generations while substantially reducing poverty and conserving the planet's life support systems. So that's what we mean by sustainability. It's a big, broad perspective. This initiative was actually established in FY10, and it did start out with a climate emphasis, but it's switching now to an energy emphasis. The next wave is going to be really on energy, and IT can really play a major role in knitting all this together. It's planned to continue through FY15. Peter said it involves all NSF research education directorates and offices. It's not the first such Pan Foundation initiative, but it is deeply rooted in all of the areas. There's a specific attention to human sciences. That is, we're talking about issues of change in the natural world, environmental stresses, and utility of energy systems and engineering. But human decision-making really is going to dominate the pathways forward that lead to a sustainable future. And so we're particularly emphasizing the human sciences, decision-making under uncertainty, and all the issues associated with learning as well. We're encouraging a systems-based approach to understanding, predicting, and reacting in the linked natural, social, and built environment. We have a web page. I was delighted, Bob, that you'd read the Dear Colleague letter and actually parsed it a little bit. That says that we write these things in the ivory tower there, and we wonder whether anybody ever reads them. But and so congratulations for being here today and really starting to think about the role of SEES researchers in this. And not only do we need you in obvious ways, but I think your creativity can really turn this thing on into something that's more than a nice list. So please take the charge seriously. The major aims of SEES are to support research and education. So there's a strong human capital development program. We're thinking about the people who are going to be grappling with the new economy, middle part of the century, and where they are now and what their background and training is going to be. Building connections between current projects and creating new nodes of activity. Strong emphasis on that. So it's like networks of centers, collaborations across disciplinary boundaries and also international boundaries. We need to develop the personnel. Incidentally, you mentioned, I think Bob mentioned, or Peter did, certainly the interagency and international perspectives. A lot's in play right now. For example, the 13-agency federal effort in global change is being recast as we speak, and there'll be a new strategic plan, and that's a $2.7 billion a year enterprise in the United States, with the new plan being released for public commentary in May, and then finally released in December. And that will speak to these kind of issues across interagency space in the United States. And internationally, there is a revisioning process going on at the top level internationally of ICSU, which is the sort of the body where the national academies are the members of that body, and they're restructuring their international activities around the theme of management of the planet and the human relationship with the planet in the middle part of the century. So a lot of things are coming together on this, and it's a problem-solving, realistic, robust, muscular. It's not going to go away very quickly. So NSF's role is going to be in part through this SEES. Examples of the what's in the portfolios is going to be research of the energy, environment, society nexus. How would you actually couple across those things? Novel energy production, harvesting, storage, transmission, distribution technologies, corresponding adoption, socioeconomic and policy issues, innovative computational science and engineering methods and systems for monitoring, understanding, optimizing, life cycle costs, carbon footprints of natural, social, and built systems, and creating the interlocking, interdisciplinary teams that can take those things on. And a study of societal factors such as vulnerability and resilience, sensitivity to regional change. It's aligned with our cyber infrastructure investments. In fact, you know, one of the topics that we're discussing now a lot is the interface between CIF21 and SEES. How are those two big cross-foundation initiatives going to play together? They both seek to utilize and build geographically distributed, locally available cyber infrastructure everywhere, anytime, across boundaries of space and time. They both need advanced computing resources and software environments that can give on-demand capabilities. They're both driven by large data, floods of data that are coming out, and they both and advanced networks and data storage capabilities are there. So that's intersection. So please think about SEES and CIF21, what that intersection looks like, and new generations of experimental observing networks, managing the data streams that we have. You know, in my own directorate, we often look out at our cyber infrastructure capabilities, and what we see, or dream about, I guess, is that we've got these deep reservoirs of expertise in seismology and in atmospheric chemistry and in all of the ologies and the spheres, but they're not connected, even subterraneanly connected, to create a sea of capability. And so I think that's one of our, and I think that is also true of other disciplines. So building that kind of thing out. We did start in 10, and the emphasis in 10 had an acronym, CRI, which is now folded into SEES, and that stands for the Climate Research Investment. And there were 5 solicitations that came out over last summer in areas, and we've had a fantastic response from the community that we're very excited about, and not trivially minor, tiny success rates either. So success rates that make it worthwhile putting your best ideas on the table and showing up to the panel meetings. And they have been in water, sustainability, and climate. To that one, the Department of Energy has joined, the Department of Agriculture has joined. We have strong USGS participation. So NSF is acting as a kind of strange attractor in a way to bring in other agencies. Ocean acidification, carbon in the ocean is huge. That's why the fisheries are threatened in part. Dimensions of biodiversity, which will be a 10-year campaign with international participation. China is funding part of those solicitations. We have a novel international partnership there. Climate change science education, which is a presidential initiative. And we're just funding 15 regional centers for climate change, for climate science education. Very exciting. And the last one, regional and decadal Earth system modeling, which is really pushing at the really tough problem. I mean, people often think climate prediction is around the corner. It's actually a very, very tough problem in the interannual, seasonal, decadal time sense. You're dealing with a semi-chaotic system where the boundary conditions and you've got these internal modes of oscillation. It's a very tough system. We're looking for creative new ways, new think of how to build the kind of predictive systems that will be needed. And there's an urgency here because, we had a visit from the Australian minister of, there's a ministry in Australia of water and climate. So, Minister of Water and Climate came to visit, and they're building infrastructure in Australia with 30, 50-year timescales and billions of dollars. They don't, it's not a luxury. They need to know, they need to have some sense of what the environment is going to look like. And you all know that Australia was flooded in a massive way. So there are some countries that are ahead of us in terms of ingesting this sense of urgency for these predictive systems. The statistics are just shown here. You can get a sense of the kinds of numbers of awards, hundreds of awards, a total of about $200 million of new money came in under CRI, so that forms the initial pillar of SEES. We've had a set of news releases on them, and there's a Dear Colleague letter, as you pointed out. The focal points for 11 were to enhance the SEES portfolio and support sustainable energy research and socioeconomic, environmental, and educational implications. It's in part is responding to an NSB Sustainable Energy report. So the 11 activities, which were really why the Dear Colleague letter came out. As you probably appreciate, in a continuing resolution, there are no new solicitations. So what you look for are Dear Colleague letters that bring together pre-existing elements that can be amplified and sustained to move the ball. And so that's what we're doing. And it involves the system approaches and partnerships. And so the Dear Colleague letter highlights a few things. So these are near-term opportunities. The coupled human-natural systems activities, specific solicitation, will be augmented to encourage SEES themes. We'll be looking at catalyzing new international collaborations with the PIRE program and the Office of International Science and Engineering. And I think this is one to maybe highlight a little bit in your thinking. Research Coordination Network solicitation. It's a pre-existing program, but we're looking to build out ultimately what would be called a sustainability research network internationally. This will be like some of the thinking is like an internet for sustainability with the kind of richness of capability that allows for interoperability and sharing and interaction across nations. And we are thinking of a regional node build-out kind of thing with maybe several regional nodes in the United States, maybe in the Middle East, maybe in the Far East, and we're talking to international partners and colleagues about this already. There are three international networks. One is the Inter-Americas Institute for Latin America, one is African-S for Africa, and one is the Asia-Pacific Network that all have SEES interests and fledgling capabilities. And so what does computer science bring to that kind of a vision? How are coordination networks? Are they going to be the classic things that we've had in the past? Are they going to look like centers with nodes and PIs and leaders? Are they going to be something quite more like the Europeans have been experimenting with in the last 15 years? Their networks of excellence, which have had their pros and cons, and so we're looking carefully at that kind of arena. For CNH, the focus is going to be on interdisciplinary analyses of human natural system processes and complex interactions. So we're adding support for exploratory activities and new team awards. And in the research coordination networks, we're looking initially at not funding research projects, but funding the fabric of the network. And this is where you might really be able to come in strongly. How do these networks, what should be their guiding principles? How are they going to work? What kind of requirements are going to drive the modus of operating? And what research themes or questions or is it going to be broken down with meta-disciplinary domains or broken down more narrowly in traditional disciplines? So research coordination networks, they'll be relatively small grants, but they're seeding what will become a sustainability research network. So thinking about what they are and giving us some creative ideas. And here are the sustainability research networks, which will be in our plans, in our out-year plans, which we'll hear more about when the budget gets released, these kind of things. So the competitions I've already mentioned, so I'm not going to dwell on those. One of the things we are planning in 11 is a summit. And program office, I like the word summit. It doesn't quite do it for me, but a summit, a high-level, high-visibility gathering of national and international experts, distinguished speakers, to highlight the work funded within the SEES portfolio, to make more visible the commitment here of NSF, and to bring forward individuals from many sectors, including other agencies, and that planning is in the early phases of work. It'll be Washington-based. So beyond 11, in 12, building out these sustainability research networks. We're going to have a strong focus on postdoctoral fellowships, a solicitation targeting interdisciplinary SEES fellows, the people who are going to be growing in to be the leaders in this area. Strong emphasis on international research and education. I think unprecedentedly strong interest on our international of actually going out and doing this. It turns out, just my own experience, that people look to the States for leadership a lot internationally. And then when they come to the States, they look to NSF for leadership, and we have a few people in an office, and we try to rise to the occasion. But I think that is an opportunity for international leadership at a higher level than we've had it before, because no nation state is immune from these multiple stresses. We're going to have a focus in the next round on coastal areas and on the Arctic. So look for specific solicitations there. Arctic is changing very fast. It's a canary in the cage metaphor. But the coastal areas are also extreme. That's where the population pressures are largest. That's where inundation, that's where severe weather events that are being introduced because of the greater energy in the hydrological cycle that we have now. And so we're going to look at coastal areas, and maybe coastal cities will be a part of that also. And this all is consistent with the White House priorities. If you look at the 2012 memo from the White House, the priorities include moving towards a clean energy future. I think you heard those words, clean energy, in the president's speech. To reduce dependence on energy imports while curbing greenhouse gas emissions. So there's a White House priority that has within one sentence energy greenhouse gas, climate, environment. Understanding, adapting to, and mitigating the effects of global climate change, and managing competing demands on land, freshwater, oceans for production of food, fiber, biofuels, and ecosystem services based on sustainability and biodiversity. So NSF is configuring itself to support these administration priorities. And I think this is the last quote, and we work a lot with John Holdren, who is the President's Science Advisor and has been working in this area for 40 years and is a international expert in this area. So he hasn't changed his spots in the White House. And here's a quote from him that after 4 decades of studying these issues, he's concluded that energy is the core of the environment problem, environment is the core of the energy problem, and resolving this energy economy environment dilemma is the core of sustainable well-being for industrial and developing countries alike. So this is the nub of the problem. The how-to is the subject of your meeting here. And I'm just delighted that you're taking it on so quickly, reading the material so quickly, and you've got a workshop in play, because I know in some areas in my own community, they haven't quite figured it out yet, that this is a game that's in play and that the ball is in the air and that NSF needs help to define what it looks like. So I'll stop there, and I'd be happy to engage with you or whatever you'd like to do, Bob. Yeah.
I don't quite understand what a research coordination network is. Could you just explain more and give a little more concrete examples of what that might be?
Yeah. We have had this program called Research Coordination Networks at NSF for quite a while. And here are some examples of Gleon, FluxNet, PeatNet. So you can go online and you can look in detail at the centers, at the networks that have been supported. To date, this program has been of the order of magnitude 200, 300K to support a fledgling network where it didn't exist before, and create this sort of, you might think of it as glue money that would allow for the teams to start working together, often in an interdisciplinary new area. And it doesn't fund research projects. So that's the pre-existing NSF opportunity that we are looking at in 2011 and growing into something that will leverage into SEES in a major way. So we're going to focus on and building up these, so the dollar number will go up. It won't go up massively, but it will go up to create opportunities for new kinds of networks to be established and supported. And then from these new networks, we anticipate that a sustainability research network, which will be much more robust and will have research projects and will have a lot of international national collaboration, will emerge in a way that has key principles of open data access, no proprietary nature to it, supporting translational research often when needed, and so forth. So it's an interim step that we're looking at in the context of a continuing resolution to use the RCN. Okay.